Hey everybody, Derek here. We're a little late getting started, even with the change over to 3 p.m. But we're going to be taking a look at the news. Sorry, just going to mix the audio levels here a little bit. Anyway, we're going to take a look at the news for 28th of March to the 3rd of April, 2022. So, biggest news, actually, let me just get the chat so I can see it, just in case someone wants to join, if it ever happens. Anyway. So, biggest news this week is probably PlayStation Plus. So Sony have decided to merge PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now into one subscription service, allegedly launching in June with over 700 games and more value than ever, according to PlayStation themselves. And they do open this article with, Sony Interactive Entertainment has been at the forefront of innovation with game subscription services. Citation needed on that one, Sony, I think. But, okay, anyway, here's the breakdown. So, they're going to break it into three and a half tiers. We'll get to the half one in a minute. But, Tier 1, PlayStation Plus Essential. And the benefits of that are pretty much what you already get from PlayStation Plus already. So, whatever you have from PlayStation Plus right now, that will just become PlayStation Plus Essential, so it provides the same benefits that PlayStation Plus members are getting today, such as monthly downloadable games, exclusive discounts, cloud storage, multiplayer access. No changes for existing PlayStation Plus members in this tier, so if you are already a PlayStation Plus member, come June, you will just migrate to the PlayStation Plus Essential thing without having to do anything, hopefully. Hopefully they don't, balls that up and everything will go fine. That is the pricing structure. Then, PlayStation Plus Extra. So here's the new stuff. So PlayStation Plus Extra is basically PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now together. So it provides all the benefits from the Essential tier and then adds a catalogue of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games. Only the most enjoyable ones. No shit games. Only the enjoyable ones. They don't specify what the criteria is for enjoyable games. But okay, well I guess we'll have to see. Including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners. Games in the extra tier are downloadable for play, so you won't necessarily have to stream these. You will be able to download some of them. I imagine they will have to get agreement from third-party studios and stuff before they can say that for definite. Also, that catalog of 400 games, they have not mentioned what they're going to be. We don't know. We don't know what that catalog is. Pricing structure is pretty much an extra $5 on top. Per month. And then PlayStation Plus Premium ** provides all the benefits from Essential and Extra tiers, so this is just on top of all of what you've just heard. Adds up to an additional 340 games, including PS3 games that you'll have to stream, a catalogue of beloved classic games in both streaming and download for the original PlayStation, PS2 and PSP, but not the Vita. But fuck you for the Vita, I guess. Cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in the extra and premium tiers in the market, where PlayStation Now is currently available. That is also an issue because PlayStation Now isn't available everywhere. Customers can stream games using PS4, PS5, consoles, and PC. Again, PC streaming also not necessarily available everywhere. And then time-limited game trials, which they already have, which are kind of useless because they start the trial from the minute you download it instead of from the minute you start playing it, so kind of lose half of your time with the trial, but whatever. And pricing structure, again, is an additional $5 on top of that. So, at launch, we plan to include titles such as Death Stranding, God of War, Spider-Man, Spider-Man Again, and Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal. So, most of that is first-party stuff, except for Mortal Kombat, but that seems to be a perennial PlayStation Plus thing, so I think we're probably fine with that. When the new PlayStation Plus service launches, PlayStation Now will transition into the new PlayStation Plus offering and will no longer be available as a standalone service. So if you still want PlayStation Now, you're basically going to have to get the PlayStation Plus. And that will pretty much, if you are currently paying for PlayStation Now, you will be migrated to the PlayStation Plus Extra tier. So it'll merge your PS Plus and PS Now accounts, basically. Where are we now? PlayStation Now customers will migrate over to the premium service. Sorry, you'll go to the premium one. You'll go to this one. So if you're already paying for PlayStation Plus, this is where you'll go. You'll go to premium. What does that do to your current PlayStation Plus subscription if you already have one? Don't know. I forgot to change scenes. God damn it. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know how the actual transition will be handled if you have a PlayStation Plus subscription and a PlayStation Now subscription. So if you only have one, we know what'll happen. You'll just migrate to whatever the tier is. But if you have both, and your subscription overlaps with the changeover into June, don't know. They haven't said. I guess they'll do a Q&A at some point, possibly. Or, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll begin with initial launch in several markets in Asia, followed by North America, Europe, and the rest of the world where PlayStation Plus is offered, and they hope to have everybody migrated over by the end of the first half of 2022, which is the end of June. So, in the June timeframe. So if you're talking the entire month of June, I guess, is when they'll be doing the migration. Will it all be completely seamless and everything will be fine? No. There are going to be problems, and then the rest of this is just kind of fluff pieces. So there's some good stuff there. Like, mostly the thing I'm actually most interested in is I can't believe it now, but the PS1 and PS2 retro games. I still refuse to say that they are retro games. Hey Melwen, how's it going? I still refuse to say that PlayStation... Okay, fine. PlayStation 1 is more retro, I guess. I can't really get around that. PlayStation 2 still makes me feel like an old man to say that is retro. And PSP. PS3 being retro is mean. You're just being mean to me now. That's unfair. But yeah, having those games in... Until we know what the library is, I'm a bit torn on it because I don't know. I don't know what games they're going to be. They keep touting that they'll be the most enjoyable and the ones everybody knows, and you know, all the big games will be there, and it's like, yeah, fine, but a lot of the big games got their HD ports and remasters and stuff. I kind of want the more obscure titles that like had some interesting ideas, and they might get a new lease on life if they're on this kind of library. People can like pick them up, and you know, they can get a stronger following. Stuff that's already there that people already know about, like Resident Evil. You know, it's well known. There's tons of people who do speedruns for it or do walkthroughs for it and so on. You could find it easily enough, but good luck finding someone who has something on like Vagrant Story or Brave Fencer Musashi or something like that. You know, those are some interesting games that not many people know about and are very difficult to find now that would definitely benefit from a service like this, but they might not because Sony has a track record of only going after the favorites, the ones everybody knows. Which is, like, from a marketing and business standpoint, yeah, they'll stand to make the most money for the most effort, or for the least amount of effort, rather. Whereas they won't make as much the other way around. And then obviously the big shit part here really is that PS3 games are only streamable, which sucks. And for anyone who may not have been around or considers the PS3 a retro console, you might know why. Why are PS3 games so difficult to get running on like modern hardware and that kind of thing? So, small history lesson on the PS3. The PS3 has some very unique architecture. It was built at a time when PCs in general were starting to do parallel programming or parallel processing, if you prefer. And that is, instead of tasks all being done in sequence, one after the other, after the other, after the other, which is the way computing used to work at the time, they would take things that were independent of each other and just have them run parallel to each other. And the cell processor that was in the PS3 took that idea and just kind of exploded it a little bit. And it said, we will, instead of giving you one core to do everything, we will give you one very powerful core that can do 16 things at once. And you're like, wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. That'll make our games incredible. Why can't we just, you know, keep working like that instead? Oh, okay, the problem is you have to use all 16. You can't just use one, because one of them by itself isn't strong enough. You have to use all 16, which means every time you code something, you have to break it up into 16 pieces to make it work, which is why people who developed on the PS3 hated it, because it doesn't work the same as the way the Xbox 360 worked at the time. How PC development was going at the time didn't really work that way. Most of the third-party libraries or third-party engines like Unreal, Gamebryo, GameMaker, a few of the other ones didn't work that way, had no support for the PS3. So if you wanted to work on it, you pretty much had to roll your own engine. And for third-party developers, that's a lot of money. which tend to meant that the PS3 didn't get as much. The 360 basically became the primary development platform, whereas it used to be the PS2 was the primary development platform. So that knocked Sony out for a good bit. And when it came back to the PS4, they went, you know what, let's just make a PC in a box. Which is what they did. And the Xbox One is also more or less a PC in a fancy box, and that's pretty much how they've gone since. PS5 is more or less the same thing. The Xbox Series' consoles are more or less just PCs in fancy boxes. So that's the way they've been going. But the reason the PS3 is so difficult to emulate or to get a chipset that can play them so you can download them and just play them on the PS5, that's why. The architecture is very unique and esoteric and was a good idea, but was potentially not implemented well or not documented well enough, or it just didn't get the kind of buy-in from other developers. First-party PS3 games, really good. Like, really leveraged the hardware really well, mostly because they probably had the actual hardware architect, like, right there to tell them how to make the thing work. But that's not going to be, like, Activision, EA, and so on wouldn't have had that kind of access, so the dev kit can only do so much for them. But anyway, so that's the 3 tiers. So PlayStation Plus Essential, which is if you're already on PlayStation Plus, that you're still getting the same thing, no change there. PlayStation Plus Extra is a little bit on top, and it basically gives you small access to PlayStation Now. So it's only for the PS4 and PS5 games of PlayStation Now, and I think then it's only it's a small catalog of it, it's not the whole thing. And then PlayStation Plus Premium is the entirety of PlayStation Now, and then with like PC streaming, and you can download like PS1 and PS2 games. The interesting thing here, or the one thing to look out for here, is the PS3 store and the PSP store sold PS1 games, some of them. So you could buy them. You could buy like a digital version of a PS1 game and play it on your PS3 or on your PSP or on your PlayStation TV or on your PlayStation Vita and so on. Is that going to be honored is the question, or are you going to have to buy into this premium service just to get access to those games? Will they bring that back? Will they bring back the, oh, you bought this already? Yeah, sure, you can have it. No? Is my answer to that? Probably. I'd say that this will just be part of the subscription service, and you can say goodbye to any of the money you spent on the PlayStation 3 shop. More or less. Unless you still have your PS3, I doubt you're going to get access to it again. Another interesting thing here is some PSP games never got a digital version. They only ever came out on the disc. So how are they going to handle those? Are they even going to bother? There are some games, Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, for instance, and Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core never got digital releases, which has really pissed me off because I bought into the digital only PSP as well. That was the one that had the weird slidable front on it, PSP Go. And I was like, yeah, digital's the way to go for these kind of things. And all the games I wanted didn't get digital releases. Like, well, fuck you. That's a very expensive paperweight I've just bought. Anyway, how are they going to handle those? And then why wasn't PS Vita included? Like, I don't get that. Why wouldn't you just include the Vita as well, since you have discontinued hardware production and nobody can get them anymore? You should really add them to the service. That's not to say that this service is set in stone and they won't change it down the line. You know, next year they'll add something else or add more games. Will we know how many games they're going to have? What the library is going to be on launch? No. And then one added wrinkle is why I said there was a 3.5 tier. There is a PlayStation Plus Deluxe tier, which isn't really spoken about. And it is basically the premium version without streaming. So it's for a little bit less. I think you pay the same amount as the PlayStation Plus Extra version, but you get premium without being able to stream stuff. And that is for territories that don't have PlayStation Now, because it's not available everywhere. Mostly because of internet infrastructure, and I think that will also be that will also determine how much people actually decide to pay extra for PlayStation Plus Extra or PlayStation Plus Premium and so on. Like, will they bother? If your internet service isn't good enough, will you bother going up a tier? If the library is good enough, I probably will. But I don't know. We don't know what the library is going to be, but one thing we do know is that their first-party games won't release on the PlayStation Plus Premium service at the same time as their regular release. So Jim Ryan was quick to clarify that no, first-party games won't debut on the PlayStation Plus Premium. They'll come out separately as themselves, and then maybe they will be added like a year later down the line. So you don't expect to see God of War Ragnarok in June on the PlayStation Plus Premium. You will have to buy that separately, which I'm not exactly surprised, but this is coming from an angle of people thinking that the new PlayStation Plus service is a replacement to Game Pass, or not a replacement, competitor for Game Pass, and it's not really. It's really more of a case of Sony wanting to combine and simplify their backend. So they want to combine their subscription services that they have going right now, which is PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus, and they basically want to say that the vast majority of people who have a PlayStation Now subscription also have a PlayStation Plus subscription. Like their stats are like it's over 70%, and they're basically saying we really shouldn't have two separate subscriptions for this. We should just combine them. Like, it's easier. Plus, they might get a revenue bump, or they probably will get a revenue bump on people going from PlayStation Plus up to Extra or up to Premium. Like people like me, who will go from, oh, okay, cool, I can get access to some PS4 and PS5 games without having to pay extra for it, sure. Why wouldn't I do that? It will bump it up at least to PlayStation Plus Extra. That's a revenue bump for them, you know? Is it a massive get for consumers? No, not really. Unless they're big into retro titles like myself. I would think your standard, I don't know, maybe I'm being stereotypical for the standard Call of Duty Fortnite person, probably doesn't care too much about PS1 retro titles. Probably has never heard of Vagrant Story and Soul Reaver and so on. Poor people. Never played the original Metal Gear Solid. What kind of life is that? What kind of life are they living? Anyway, that's the PlayStation Plus service. It's only really been announced. They'll probably have more to say about it for May, I would think, is when, or maybe later on in April, they'll divulge what the actual library is going to be, how sparse it might end up being, and so on. I'm just hoping we'll see some of the more niche PlayStation titles, because under Jim Ryan, who I've not tried to hide my dislike for Jim Ryan being head of PlayStation, but he has very much focused on the prestige, big blockbuster PlayStation titles. And Sony and PlayStation First Party have not really made any of their more weird niche titles in 5-6 years maybe, and that's disappointing. Because they're the more interesting ones. They're not just the standard, this is the same game, but we're just going to change the location a little bit. Like Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, and Days Gone are pretty much the exact same game. But one of them you're a samurai, and one of them you're a biker, and one of them you're a post-apocalyptic Native American or something. I don't know. But it's the same kind of just map scroll thing. It's all the same game. Death Stranding, you could argue is something similar, but at least that had a lot of weirdness and niche to it. I really liked Death Stranding. But anyway, speaking of, that's out on PC today. But I have these tabs the wrong way around. Anyway, we're going to move on into some updates. So, bad news number 1. Breath of the Wild 2 is not coming out this year. So, Elden Ring confirmed. Elden Ring is confirmed for Game of the Year 2022, I guess. So, surprising no one at all, Nintendo delays Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel to 2023. Yeah, not really a surprise, because they've said nothing about it for quite a while. By now, you would have expected to have heard something more about the game, you know? You would have expected a trailer at some point. Sad, but it gives me more time to finish the first one. Yeah, that's true. I haven't finished it myself either, Melvin. God. I think I did what almost everybody did, which was I beat the 4 shrines, basically, and just ignored Hyrule Castle and just kept playing everything else. I wanted to leave Hyrule Castle for the end, but it turns out the game is enormous, so I never got around to it. So this is from Eiji Onuma. This is translated via Nintendo. For those of you who have been looking forward to release this year, we apologize. As previously announced, the adventure in the sequel will take place not just on the ground as in the previous game, but also in the skies above, not unlike Skyward Sword, I guess. However, the expanded world goes beyond that, and there will be an even wider variety of features you can enjoy, including new encounters and new gameplay elements. In order to make this game's experience something special, the entire development team is continuing to work diligently on this game, so please wait a while longer. Okay. I'm fine with that. Not a problem. So, that's him just talking over it, and then there was a little bit of extra footage, and it's kind of blown my theory out of the water that that's not Link, because the trailer up until this point never showed his face in that costume, or in this outfit if you prefer. It like deliberately didn't show his face, but then he turned around and now it shows his face. So yeah, that's Link. I was like, damn it. I was really hoping it was Ganon or Zelda or something, but no, it's Link. But yeah, there's an interesting change here in that you can see Link's arm, which we already knew was kind of messed up because we'd seen that from the other trailers, but the Master Sword is also messed up. God damn it. Okay, YouTube doesn't want to skip around for me, but yeah, you can see the Master Sword is also messed up. So are we thinking that the Master Sword take the brunt of a big attack or something and now it's messed up? Or is this also... has the Master Sword also been absorbed into the weapon durability system that everybody hated from Breath of the Wild 1? We don't know. I thought that this character was going to be Ganon, and that they were deliberately hiding their face because they were going to change like some stuff about the outfit, they changed the hair or something like that, and because Ganon has that kind of blocky texture on his corpse in the first game, so I was wondering maybe, but I don't know, it turns out it probably is not going to be the case. Don't know, maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna still stick to my theory until we find out for definite. Then also announced Heart Machine are gonna make a somewhat sequel, more game in the same universe kind of thing to Hyper Light Drifter. So they're going to make a new game called Hyper Light Breaker, and they have a new trailer that is mostly, or is entirely just CG. So none of this is gameplay. This is just made by, it's made by a studio who did trailers for, I think they did the Dead Cells trailer, something like that. So this is going to be a roguelike, which is a little disappointing because Hyper Light Drifter is more of a Zelda game with very difficult combat, and it's a game that I really want to be good at because I really like it, but it's so hard. It's such a hard game. But the art style is amazing in it, the environment that they've developed, and just the whole tone of it, of Hyper Light Drifter, was really, really nice. So yeah, excited to go back to the world, a bit disappointed that it's like a kind of roguelike, more action game. I would have preferred another Zelda-y type thing, but there we go. Early access on Steam in 2023, and this is the kind of what the actual game will look like. So they're going fully 3D. Hyper Light Drifter was a pixel art kind of isometric thing, whereas this may be we don't know if it's going to be isometric 3D or like Hades or something like that, or is it going to be a proper over-the-shoulder camera kind of thing. It's being developed by Gearbox, who are responsible for Borderlands. And Borderlands has a very unique art style, as you're probably well aware of. It has this kind of cel-shaded thing, and people have likened this shot to, you know, it has a bit of Borderlands to it. So potentially they're using their engine maybe, or something like that. Again, we won't know. Early access in 2023, which means the game will be out in 2025, maybe? Don't know. Debatable. And then second piece of bad news, E3 cancelled. So they were going to do a physical event, and then in January they said, okay, no, we're not going to do that. COVID numbers are too high. And now E3 has officially ditched its digital-only event this year, which means no E3 at all in 2022 even, which marks the third year in a row E3's in-person component has been cancelled. So yeah, E3 looking a bit shaky going forward. It was looking shaky even before the pandemic because a lot of the bigger publishers were pulling out anyway. They were making their own digital showcases instead, or having their own in-person things earlier in the year, later in the year, and that kind of thing. So an increasing number of publishers, including Sony, EA, and Activision, had started abandoning the show a wider number of publishers enjoying success with their own digital showcases. So that's things like Nintendo Direct, Sony State of Play, you know, that kind of thing. Xbox's Xbox thing, I think they have a name for it, I don't remember what it is. But perennial video game pope Jeff Keighley has of course decided to jump in and remind everyone that Summer Game Fest is a thing and it will be back this year. Excited to share that Summer Game Fest will return this June with a slate of events. So that was kind of an answer to E3 not going ahead last year, that Jeff Keighley decided, hey, everybody loves my Game Awards, right? Yes? And then he didn't wait for anyone to answer him and said, let's do Summer Game Fest too. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Game Awards, or the game ads, as it should more probably correctly be called. Summer Game Fest does have a little bit of a better reputation though, because it's not just wall-to-wall ads and trailers. Like they do like dev breakdowns and they do like roundtables and stuff, so there's a bit more to it than that, and it goes on longer, so you get like indie developers can have their say in it too, so it's a bit better, to be honest. It is better than the Game Awards. Okay, monthly games. So the two services that do monthly games, it's the start of the month, so that means we get games for them. So starting with PlayStation, we have Hood, Outlaws and Legends, SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom, Rehydrated, and Slay the Spire. So what are these games? Hood, yes, oldest man in the world. Okay. Hood, Outlaws and Legends is a multiplayer cooperative thing where you are going on heists as the band of merry men, basically, from Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving mostly to yourself, but occasionally to the poor. I've seen like a couple of playthroughs of this. It looks interesting. You have different like character classes and you're trying to stealth your way into like castles and towns and into like military camps and stuff to try to steal their money and their lockboxes and get away without being caught, but then you do get caught, so you have to have a big combat thing. So yeah, it's like a heavy stealth party thing. Kind of interesting. Another added wrinkle to it is there can be multiple teams going for the same treasure. So what you can have is like one team, you'll just leave them to do the hard work of getting the treasure and getting out, and then like ambush them and steal the treasure for yourself. I'm not a big fan of competitive multiplayer, so I'd never really get into this kind of thing, but at the same time, I don't think I'd know anybody who'd be interested in playing, and even then, I don't think I'm all that interested in playing it in the first place, so there's that. But yeah, it's free. These kind of games, I think, do benefit most from being on the PlayStation Plus service because they'll get more people into it, you know, and then they can start hitting them with their microtransactions and subscription stuff and that kind of thing. So yeah, what they're showing here is the one team making all of the effort to try to steal the stuff and another team waiting to ambush them. But why would you do that since you guys were there already? Why didn't you just take the treasure? Don't understand. Anyway, that's Hood, Outlaws and or Legends. Then we have SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which is a remake, or I think it's a proper full-on remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom, which is a pretty standard. Why can't I skip ahead? YouTube embeds never seem to work properly with their 10-second skip thing. And is there any actual gameplay? Maybe. It's a pretty standard like platform title thing. Stop doing the Nintendo ad. You're not Nintendo. Stop it. Just show gameplay. Goddammit. No, never show gameplay. All right, fine. You know what it is. You know, if you've played any platformer ever, you know what that is. And then Slay the Spire is a card game, kind of. So it's just like building your hand and going up against other opponents, and it's a bit of a roguelike kind of thing. You know, you're collecting new cards to make your way up the spire and do it eventually. Slay whatever's at the top of it. You can also think of it as a kind of randomized turn-based game, like the old turn-based RPGs. Same kind of idea, but your skills will be randomized. So think of it that way. I've heard good things about Slay the Spire, but again, roguelikes until you beat Hades, I'm not really interested, because Hades has set the bar so high for roguelikes. I just don't think anyone's ever going to beat them, which is It's as good and bad at the same time. But anyway, games with gold, we have Another Site, Hue, Outpost, Kaloki X, and MX vs ATV Alive. I have not heard of any of these games. I have no idea what any of them are. So this should be interesting. I can't full screen this for some reason. Right, Hue, no. Show me the games. Another Site, okay, it's a side-scrolly, puzzly type thing that may or may not be Alice in Wonderland, possibly. Maybe? Alright, so it's a kind of side-scrolly diorama puzzle thing, I think. That's what it sounds like. And you can command a cat, I guess. Alright, interesting idea. If you play most of the game as the cat, then there might be something interesting there then. Okay, Hue is Limbo but with color. Completely defeating the purpose of Limbo, but okay. Color swapping. Okay, so it's taking the Ikaruga color swapping mechanic and just turning it into a puzzler, 2D puzzler type thing. Yeah, so if you swap so that you're the same color as the background or same color as these objects, they disappear so they don't become obstacles anymore. Okay, interesting. Outpost Kaloki X. Looks like old school shooter. Nope, I was very wrong. It's a crafting game, I guess. A crafting factory type thing? Maybe? Or maybe it's a management sim? I think it's a management sim actually for the Outpost. And then MX vs ATV should be fairly obvious. It's a racer, but with bikes. Fewer wheels, much worse injuries. Motocross versus all-terrain vehicles. Something. Break your spine, break your back. Probably spend the rest of your life on the stretcher. But anyway, that's games with gold and PlayStation Plus. And then new releases, so brand new games out this week. We have Weird West, which we played a little bit of on Friday. It's an isometric Wild West cowboy game. It has multiple characters and campaigns themselves, so 5 separate characters and 5 separate campaigns that do overlap at some places, but are in general just their own thing. I enjoyed what I played of it. There's a lot of different options you can take for like infiltrating enemy camps or for social with other people and talking and learning new information to use in your quests. You've got also weird stuff because it's the Weird West. So you've got werewolves and pigmen and magic and cultists and cannibals, and there's some vampires and aliens. I think they were aliens that we met in the game as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. It's from Wolfeye Studios, or the developer, who are former Arcane developers, so they would have worked on things like Prey and Dishonored. So it's that kind of, if you think of those kind of systems where there was a lot of different ways for you to approach situations. You could stealth in, all guns blazing, mix of the two of them, talk your way out of it. Charm enemies in to do all that work for you. That kind of thing. It's really rewards your creativity and experimentation and that kind of thing. So that's Weird West. If you want to see more of it, you can check out the VOD that should be up there. And then, of course, not to be outdone, Steam has its greatest release to date, MILF Hunter. So, MILF Hunter is a casual game with a simple puzzle, a game that can change your idea of the planet, okay, wow, and help you discover them from an unexpected side. 8 representatives of different planets are waiting for you, each of which will surprise you, despise you, I was going to say, with its originality and uniqueness. Okay, here you will feel like a real space explorer and pioneer, right? Does that description sound like MILF Hunter to you? Because it doesn't to me. Steam. Never change. Never change. Okay. Right, it is now time, unfortunately, to talk about the worst parts of the video game. No, the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. So, starting with longtime villain, I guess, of the stream, Activision. 4 US senators deeply concerned about proposed Xbox Activision merger. So this is Microsoft having acquired or potentially acquiring Activision as long as they get the rubber stamp from Federal Trade Commission to buy them for an obscene amount of money. It's like $68.7 billion US dollars. Ridiculous. Biggest ever acquisition by quite some distance. I think the biggest one before that was it Microsoft buying Bethesda as well? That might have been it. Or Epic being bought by Tencent. That might have been the biggest one. Maybe. Or no, Take-Two bought somebody recently for a ridiculous amount of money. I forget who it is now. Anyway, so Activision, the people behind Call of Duty, Overwatch, that kind of thing. Warcraft, Diablo, Crash Bandicoot, and so on. The FTC is handling an antitrust review of the deal to make sure that there's no, nothing could possibly go wrong with this merger, of course. Definitely not. Stamp, go right ahead. Oh no, the industry's destroyed? Whoops. Anyway, so on Thursday, U.S. Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Sheldon Whitehouse, and Cory Booker sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission expressing their concern that the deal would threaten worker-led demands for accountability. So remember, Activision are currently going through a union drive, and they are absolutely doing their best to stamp that out. And the concern here is that if they merge with Microsoft have a much better track record of stamping down unions. So that's the concern there. Whatever you might feel about them, these four senators independently, they have always kind of championed the idea of workers' rights and consumer rights and that kind of thing. Maybe for their own benefit, or maybe for their own, furthering their own political careers or whatever, but they've still been behind it. So these are not surprising that it's these four, basically. And the proposed merger has already impeded unionization efforts and undermined workers' calls for accountability. Over 1,800 Activision and Blizzard employees signed a letter calling on Mr. Kotick to step down from the organization, one of the union organizers' key demands. However, Microsoft's proposed deal with Activision Blizzard is protecting Mr. Kotick, keeping him in his role as CEO until at least 2023, and guaranteeing him hundreds of millions in profit and a potential additional golden parachute worth over 14.5 million US dollars if he does not step down voluntarily. The lack of accountability, despite shareholders, employees, and the public calling for Kotick to be held responsible for the culture he created, would be an unacceptable result of the proposed Microsoft acquisition. So, Bobby's gotta go. Basically, it's what everybody has been saying except the board members. Why? Money. They get a lot of money if Bobby stays. If Bobby stays, he gets a big payout, and if he gets a big payout, so do they. So that's not going to change anytime soon, but it's good that it's being highlighted, and obviously being US senators, they do have a considerably higher push and higher pull than some dude on Twitch. They can definitely enact more change than I could possibly do, or anybody, even anyone who even works at Activision could even get done. That being said, Bobby's not going anywhere. It would cost them so much money to fire him that from a purely cost-effective standpoint, they're better off keeping him. The real question then is, will changing over to Microsoft actually change the corporate culture of Activision? Probably not, which is unfortunate. And the rest of this article just goes on to highlight everything we already know about Activision. That is, well, not Activision necessarily, but definitely Bobby and the higher senior level suite, that they are all shitheads. Sticking with Activision, because not to be outdone, Activision Blizzard removes company vaccine mandate effective immediately. And then an update, employees are like, oh no, absolutely not. Effective immediately, the publisher was removing the mandate for employees working from offices to be fully vaccinated against COVID. The employees are demanding the Call of Duty publisher immediately puts its vaccine requirement back into effect and allow remote work as a permanent option. Will the company accede to that? No. Probably not. Why? Because the decision to lift the vaccine mandate was made last minute and without being run by employees or studio management, so they didn't even ask the people who will be working in the office, is this okay? They just said, fuck you. Get back in the office and get back to work. A lot of the employees would be saying that some employees also see the move as a chance to monitor staff more closely as part of management's union busting efforts. So they do think that this whole push to get them back into the office is so that they can monitor them for the union stuff and go, hey, you stop doing that. You stop doing that right now. You go over there and stop talking to him about unions. No, don't talk to them about what you make a month and why it's different, despite you having the exact same job. Full email is there, but yeah, there is a planned walkout, the fourth walkout from Activision in the last 6 months or something like that. So yeah, things are going well for that company. And sticking even further with Activision Blizzard EEOC settlement going forward. So this was a settlement brought forward by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in the United States for $18 million against things like sexual harassment, pay disparity, firing without cause, that kind of thing. And they get a nice slap on the wrist, $18 million. And they also stipulate that Activision Blizzard is not admitting wrongdoing or liability and paying $18 million to not be wrong. Or not be liable, I guess. It's their way of saying, we paid you so we can wipe our hands of this and you can't sue us again. That's what that is. This is a get out of jail free card against the EEOC, which is why California Department of Fair Employment and Housing objected to it. They're like, this is an insulting amount of money to allow them to get away with. They objected to it. They're going to appeal this particular one as well, so debatable if they'll actually get to just walk away with $18 million, but it is looking like it's probably going to happen. California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, their own lawsuit is still going ahead, which will be for dramatically more money. And previously, they had interjected when Riot Games, people behind League of Legends, had also tried to settle their class action lawsuit for just $10 million. And the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, it came in to say that plaintiffs should be getting something close to $400 million, which would be more accurate for the actual damages caused. Riot Games eventually settled for $100 million, so considerably higher than the $10 million they were going for, and potentially, if they hadn't been able to stop Activision as well, potentially higher than the $18 million, that they could just, I don't know, Bobby found down the back of his couch somewhere and go, yeah, whatever, go away. That's all that is. That's go away money. So not a good look. Not a good look for justice there. Anyway, we'll move away from Activision now. I'm back over to Twitch. Twitch pauses boost feature after porn sneaks on the front page. Good job. Good job, Twitch. So, viewers are paying to promote or boost sexually explicit content onto the platform's front page. So, there is a experiment, as Twitch is putting it, where you can pay to promote a Twitch channel that you presumably are subscribed to or following or whatever. And it will appear under the live channels we think you'll like category. And apparently porn was appearing under the live channels we think you'll like. The whole boost this stream or the boost train or the hype train is supposed to benefit smaller streamers, but the issue there is why would that happen? Why would it benefit smaller streamers? They don't have the money or the followers to be able to boost themselves. This would only ever benefit big streamers because they would have the followers to be able to do something like that. The people who would be willing to pay to boost their stream even higher. Like, how they ever thought this would actually benefit smaller streamers, I don't think so. I think they absolutely knew it wasn't going to benefit smaller streamers, and they just wanted the additional money from it because they knew the bigger streamers would have the money. But anyway, didn't work. There's a picture there that I'm not going to show because I don't want to get demonetized, but yeah, there's porn on the front page of Twitch, and it's not Photoshopped. Twitch spokesperson told Kotaku the company is going to be going back to the drawing board on how to improve platform discoverability. Cool. Go back to the drawing board and a couple of other features while you're at it. We've decided to pause boost train due to some safety considerations. Safety. Boobs apparently are a safety consideration, but okay. That came up through the experiment. It's particularly interesting how porn was able to get on the front page because the whole boost train and front page feature requires that the channel, it requires an affiliated channel getting financial support from several people for it to be activated. So how did that happen? It means that they have managed to become affiliated as a porn channel, or are they getting around it somehow? Are bots somehow becoming an affiliated channel? How is that happening? Can you tell me how you did as well? That would also be interesting. The entire boost thing has become deeply unpopular with the community. Nobody likes it. This is possibly the least offensive way to introduce it. It should have never been released. Monetizing front page discovery for a service that struggles to offer any discovery is a recipe for disaster, and so here we are. Yeah, no surprise then that there are boobs on the front page. You could also possibly make the argument that Twitch should just be like, you know what? Sure, we could make a Twitch OnlyFans or something and just be done with it. Instead of having to deal with this as a problem, just go, hey, there's an adult section on Twitch now. Done. Mark your stream as adult, and that'll be the end of it. Anyway. Okay, last thing for industry bullshit. Bungie files lawsuit against individuals behind false Destiny copyright takedowns. Now, there was a story last week, and I can't remember if I went with it or not. I don't think I did. But the issue was that Bungie music videos, OST videos on YouTube for Bungie music were being copyright takedown, DMCA takedowns. And the community were suggesting that why is Bungie doing this? Because they haven't had an issue with it before, and now they're suddenly decided to step in and demonetize these things, or copyright strike in some places. And Bungie came out to say, that's not us. We're not doing that. We have not asked anybody to do these takedowns. We don't know what's going on. And then the assumption then was that they had contracted out a third party to do these things, and they don't always pay attention to what the third party are doing, so they may have been overbroad with their takedowns, and they iron it out. But now, Bungie have come back and are suing people. So Bungie has filed a lawsuit against 10 unnamed individuals it believes responsible. So no, they haven't, while they have hired out a third party to do these copyright takedowns for them, that's not what was happening here. Bungie, whose own YouTube content was impacted by the bogus copyright claim, have insisted the takedowns were not the result of requests by either itself or its partners. The studios later revealed that the takedowns come from fraudulent accounts created to impersonate our IP protection service. So there are people who are making accounts with emails that look like they belong to the IP protection service. So they just made a Gmail account, and it was Bob DMCA Takedown Company at gmail.com. Like, that's all it was. And they were able to get through and impersonate it. So while they are suing these people and attempting to uncover their identities and so on through subpoenas and whatever else, they've also dropped in the lawsuit a big fuck you to Google, which is basically extensively highlighting the flaws in what it calls the gaping security loophole of YouTube's easily gamed DMCA process. As far as YouTube is concerned, any person anywhere in the world can issue takedown notices on behalf of any rights holder anywhere. A disgruntled infringer or a competitive content producer, for example, can issue takedown notices purportedly on behalf of Disney or Fox or Universal or even Google itself. So basically they do no vetting whatsoever. If you say you're from this company, they just say, okay, we're not going to check. We're not going to verify that you have the right to these rights you're claiming. Just go, okay, cool. And this is a knockback because of how DMCA is done, in that Google have to be proactive against it, or they open themselves up to being sued. It's just the way the DMCA is written. It's a shit law the way it was written, but that's how it is. YouTube has no dedicated mechanism for copyright holders who are being impersonated to let YouTube know about the DMCA fraud. So there's no comeback, there's no form, there's no person you can talk to, etc. So Bungie is suing the defendants, claiming fraud, copyright infringement, defamation, breach of contract, and more, and seeking damages and injunctive relief, including enhanced statutory damages of $150,000 for each fraudulent takedown notice that willfully infringed Bungie's copyrights. Wow. That's a lot of money. Ouch. Now, whether this will get Google to change anything, no. They won't. They won't do anything. They'll wait for this lawsuit to pass and go, yeah, cool. Business as usual. Because they can't, really. The law itself would have to change for them to be able to do anything about it, so we're stuck with YouTube's shitty content ID and Twitch's really bad DMCA takedown stuff. That's all automated because it has to be. They have to automate it because they're required to check, but they don't have enough people to check all of the footage, all of the video that goes up, all of the live streams that are happening all at once. You know, how many hundreds, thousands of live streams are going on at one time. They don't have a person there who can look and who is also an expert in copyright law to be able to say that's infringement or that's free speech or whatever, you know. They don't know. They can't do that. The law itself is bad. It is flawed and it needs to be done or needs to be redone, but the problem is if it gets redone, it'll be lobbied to fuck and be made worse. So which do you want? Do you want the really bad law we have now, or do you want the even worse law? That'll be down the line. I want a better law. No, you're not allowed to have that. No. You have bad law or worse law, but not good law. Right. Anyway, we're gonna finish with something stupid. So some dumb stuff. So somebody made a mod for Tekken that adds in a bunch of Elden Ring characters. And the problem is it is such a well done mod that some people think it's official. Some people think it's a partnership. And the issue there, I guess, is that you could potentially argue it because Bandai Namco is the publisher for both. Bandai Namco publishes Tekken and it also publishes Elden Ring. So you could make that argument, but no, it's not official. So the mod itself is really impressive. So they've just like added skins basically for Tekken characters, but they're like really good. Like it's really well done. But yeah, the creative director behind Tekken reached out to basically tell people, yeah, it's cool, but please stop contacting our customer support to say, you know, where is the pack? Why can't I find it? Why isn't it on the store? And so on. It's like, this isn't an official mod. Please stop gumming up the works. We have important other customer care things to be doing instead of this. But yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Sure, Elden is a Bandai Namco funded title, and I was the production general manager in charge of Elden, so it's not irrelevant. However, it's a ridiculously well-made mod, but please stop it. You probably don't know, but there are surprisingly many people who think this is an official one or make various understandings and contact us. So, weirdness in translation there. Japanese, obviously, but I don't know. It's pretty funny that it's such a well-done mod that people are thinking that this is an official thing. And also, like to point out that Millennia, the swords she's using, are actually from DMC3. They're from Devil May Cry 3. They're Agni and Rudra, which I thought was fun. And Bandai Namco definitely wouldn't have the rights to that. But still, I thought it was interesting that they put those swords in instead of something else. Anyway, so what will we put on loop? We'll put this on loop, I guess, since it's the only new release. You can go on loop. Right, so that was the news, the interesting news at least, for 28th of April to the 28th of March to the 3rd of April 2022. PlayStation Plus. Again, until we know the library, we won't really know for definite if it's actually of any use to anybody. Kind of waiting to know more, but I think I'll probably end up on the extra tier at least. If I'll actually go up to premium tier, it'll obviously depend on what games are there. Breath of the Wild 2 being delayed, no shock. We knew that was happening. Hyper Light Breaker, I'm surprised. Honestly, I didn't think they'd go back to the Hyper Light Drifter universe, but a little disappointed that it's not like a proper, like a sequel. Like it's the similar kind of gameplay. It's more like it's set in the same world. E3 being cancelled again, it's becoming increasingly more irrelevant as more publishers opt to just do their own thing. Just opt to do their own digital thing, so that's not exactly a surprise. Monthly games, nothing really. I'll probably play SpongeBob just for the laugh, but the rest of them not hugely interested really. Weird West is a lot of fun, but I do have a lot of games on the go right now, so I'll probably be waiting before I actually get fully into playing that. Activision, yes, having US senators come after them for it as well. Like, I feel like everyone is desperate to punish Bobby Kotick for what's happened, and I think there's a considerable concern that he won't get punished, and that's probably true. I don't think he will. I think he'll get a considerable golden parachute and we'll probably never hear of him again, which I don't think is particularly satisfying for a lot of people who've been watching this whole thing. And if Activision get away with it, if you like, I think you'll find a lot of other companies or a lot of people working in companies that have a similar culture for want of a better word, toxicity, sexual harassment, pay gaps, firing people for getting pregnant, that kind of thing, they'll just think, what's the point? You know, what's the point in bringing this up? This is just how it works. You know, I think that's the concern, that's the mentality that will come out, instead of this is wrong and we should do something about it. Because they'll say, what's the point? They let Bobby away with it. They paid him $500 million to do it. They didn't pay him. They rewarded him with it, you know? So that's the big concern around Activision. And the whole legal thing is that, will there actually be any justice or not? What else was in industry bullshit? Oh, the Twitch getting porn. Yeah, Twitch should just stop being prudes. And I would say that for pretty much every platform. Just stop. You're fighting a losing battle. People want it. People want to see boobs. Just let them. It's not an issue. All that really highlights is that the Twitch pay for play fucking promotion thing they had was flawed. It was never a good idea, and this just highlights it immediately why it's a bad idea. And then Bungie suing people isn't necessarily a great thing, because they're like a big corporate face that have the backing of Sony now as well, since Sony bought them. So that's not great necessarily, but if anything that highlights how bad the DMCA is good. So I don't know, I'm a little torn on that. And a mod being so good that it's confused to be an official thing is just hilarious to me. And Harada's response to it is equally funny. It's like, yeah, this is really good, but please stop talking to our customer service people about it. This isn't us. Anyway, cool. Elsewhere on the stream, so this week we continued our playthroughs of Ghostwire Tokyo, Paradise Killer, and Elden Ring, and we also played a little bit of Weird West. Next week we'll be doing the same, except without the Weird West part. So we'll be continuing Ghostwire Tokyo on Tuesday. I will be moving the Monday stream to Tuesday instead from now on, just so I'm not having to change just for when new releases come out. I can just be, if a game happens to come out, then I can play it. If not, I'll play something else. Ghostwire Tokyo, we are still kind of early in the game. I've spent a bit of time just going around doing cleanup on like collectibles and stuff, so hopefully there won't be as much of that in the streams and we can just focus on the quests. The actual side missions as well are actually pretty funny in some places, so think I'll leave them in for the walkthrough. I was planning on just doing them myself, but they're actually pretty funny, so I think I'll leave them in. Paradise Killer, we are probably past the halfway mark. We found a lot of evidence that suggests that there's a big old conspiracy going on, and maybe the murder that happened is not as simple as we were led to believe. And Elden Ring, we are maybe halfway. Maybe we're in Altus Plateau. I am working my way towards the Volcano Manor. I've actually reached Volcano Manor now. I'm debating whether or not I'll do Volcano Manor off stream, but there's a lot of back and forth in that. Potentially might take a really long time to do, so I may do that myself and we'll do something else for the stream instead. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the news. How did you feel about Activision or PlayStation Plus? Are you gonna get that? Want to follow me? I'm on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter as Doomtrain5 under my face. Right there, you can find that anywhere. In general, if you find a Doomtrain5 somewhere on the platform, it's probably me. Not necessarily. Any of the ones you see on the porn sites, that's not me. Anywhere else, that's not. But the one, particularly the very questionable ones, that's definitely not me. Anyway, moving on. Hopefully I'll see you later on Tuesday for Ghostwire, or Wednesday for Paradise Killer, or Saturday for Elden Ring, or back around again for weekly news for next week on Sunday. Either way. Anyway, have a good day, or a good rest of your day, or a good sleep, or a good breakfast, or whatever time you happen to be watching this, or if you're watching the VOD. How's the future? Is it shit? Probably. Did they fire Bobby? No? Yeah, I'm not surprised. Alright, anyway. See you soon. See you later, Melvin. Mm-hmm.